Good afternoon. In this video, we're going to go over this week's options watch list. Before I get into the watch list, if you're not in the room, you can find the link in the description of the video and in my bio section of social media accounts. Also, please subscribe to the channel, like the video. With that said, I don't have much on the watch list because there's quite a few things I'm just not too excited about this week. One is the economic calendar. I don't really have much going on this week. We have FOMC on Wednesday. No Powell. They usually just use these moments to test the market, to see the market's reaction and stuff like that. So inflation's kind of flattening, slightly going down depending on how you look at it. So maybe the Fed will do something different. Maybe they'll try to be more dovish, more hawkish. Who knows? We'll have to see what happens. So that is something to watch out for. Wednesday FOMC. The last few FOMCs have been duds. They haven't been really big movers. But I've noticed in the past, the ones that move the most are the ones without Powell. So maybe we'll get some movement this time. So now looking at the put-to-call ratio, it's really not that extreme. I mean, Friday was at 0.52 and today over the weekend it's at 0.50. It updates after market close, and I really thought it was going to be at extreme levels of 0.45 or lower, and it's kind of surprisingly still not that extreme. So not quite sure what's going to happen this week. The VIX is getting very, very low. I got it close up on the weekly. I mean, it's went to a low of what, 1912. It went into 19 here a couple of times. Beginning of the year, it was down at 1630 or 1650. So not sure how much lower it'll go. I mean, VIX acts like a coiled spring. The more you push down on it, the more violent the bounce is going to be. So VIX always has that kind of spring mentality, if you want to look at it like that, because that's the way I look at it. I mean, every time it gets pushed down, it just has a violent pop. So we haven't had a green day on VIX in a very long time, which was, well, actually this closed red, but this was a big pop. That was June, so it's been a couple months. I think that we're due for a bounce. Hopefully this week, if not, maybe next week. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. What will be the catalyst of the bounce? Could be FOMC. It could be China and Taiwan. It could be Russia and Ukraine. It could be Biden. Who knows? It could be anything. Sometimes when you have a lot of bad news coming out, the simplest, dumbest thing is the catalyst for the next dump. So, I mean, you really can even call it that. What's been happening is that you have all these bad news, and then all of a sudden, a few days later, the market starts dumping, and the media tries to scramble to find the narrative to why the market dumped. And usually, they pick the dumbest things. So it's just how it is. When you've been in the market as long as I have, you see some pretty stupid things, and we've seen a lot of bad news get ignored for a long time, and especially over the years, and then something really trivial comes along and the market just dumps violently over something really ridiculous. But it's kind of like karma catching up. Eventually SPY will wake up and realize all the things that's going on is really not good. So we'll have to see what happens. With that, I think VIX, I mean, if it gets down to the 17, I mean, I'm just going to get more calls out further. I mean, it's going to have its violent bounce. It's just a matter of when, not if, because VIX will always bounce. VIX always bounces. It's just a matter of when. Now, SPY is just, it's getting into heavy resistance, and the daily RSI is overbought. I mean, it's like 72. The hourly's been in the 70s for back over 400. It's just been cooling off, and just you can't really go by the RSI on the smaller time frames, because market can still grind up and the RSI can dump and cool off, and we see it all the time, especially on the hourly. It just it does that. So I mean, look at the weekly. I mean, the weekly RSI was overbought right here, and it just kept pushing up, so you really can't go by that. But with the daily, same thing could happen, but you know, it's got to cool off a little bit. We should have at least one red day, I would think. This 425 was a big resistance area, and it just blew through it Friday like nothing. So I would not be a bit surprised if they pushed SPY to 430 to 4300 level on the futures, ES futures. But got more resistance up here at the 430. So I mean, it did clear over 425. So if it gets over 430, if we have a huge gap up, I mean, I will look at puts on the on Monday the 4th. I would imagine 430 should be the short-term high, but who knows? I mean, this thing could push all the way to 440. But that's why you need to be in the room. We'll play it either direction. I'm really skeptical on calls at this point in junction. The way SPY has moved so much, we should be getting close to a temporary top, or at least a short-term top on SPY. So 4,300. If it doesn't gap up to that, I'm definitely watch for that area for resistance. If not, 435, 440. Will I play calls? Yeah, I mean, if SPY dips in the morning and breaks higher day, yeah, I'll play that. But when it comes to like gapping up huge and chasing the gap higher and higher, I'm not about that. It has to dip in order for me to even consider that. But that's why you need to be in the room. SPY, to me, I think it's gonna top out here sooner or later. We'll just have to see if it's sooner or later. So with that, definitely keep an eye on Netflix. It's right at gap resistance right now. So I mean, we'll have to see if it can break it or not. It rejected the 250 level, and it came back up to it. Well, it didn't really touch it. I mean, it stopped. I mean, you see the harsh rejection, and broke over 250 and got rejected pretty harshly, but came back up close to it. So maybe if it does get over this 251 area, that it will try to make a gap fill. I mean, obviously, I don't think it's going to make a gap fill. I mean, it can. Don't get me wrong, but I don't see it happening. I would think that would push SPY up quite a bit. I mean, SPY would have to be in the 440. Well, Netflix can go against SPY. Don't get me wrong; they definitely can. It would push SPY 450, 460 if Netflix had that kind of strength. But like I said, Netflix can go against SPY. It doesn't usually, but it can. I don't know. We definitely could see probably 275, maybe even 300, but I don't think we're going to get a full gap fill. Not in one week. I can't see that, but who knows? I'm being cynical. But McDonald's is something I was looking at. The weekly is starting to look pretty good. I mean, if it gets over these candles right here, I mean, gets over 263. You could probably make a push to 265 to 270. 271 is all-time high. Definitely keep an eye on that. McDonald's does like to break higher day, so with inflation going up, the cost of living going up, more people are using McDonald's to go eat. I know it's not the healthiest way, but people just don't really care about health. They only care about counting the money, so saving money. So McDonald's, definitely keep an eye on this one. If it does manage to get over 270 all-time high, probably going to push to 280, so keep an eye on that. Tesla, obviously that's going to split coming, and usually when you have these splits, the things love to run, so we'll have to see if that actually happens. It ran for Google, Amazon, so we'll see if it does for it did for Tesla too, when it had another split in the past. So keep an eye on it over closed at 909, but this is, what does this say? 909 cents, and this is 899.9. I don't know, that's kind of weird, but anyways, keep an eye on it over we'll say 910 for push to 940, 950. gets over this 950 area, it's probably going to go to 1,000. So I would not be surprised if Tesla ends up having a ridiculous day. Hopefully it won't be Monday or Tuesday where it's too expensive. But we'll have to see if that ends up happening. We'll watch Tesla in both directions. I mean, over the 910 and underneath the 850 area. I mean, Tesla could go either way. I'll watch it in both directions on Tesla. Apple's just had a ridiculous meme. I mean, look at the RSI. I mean, it's mid 70s. Hourly's mid 70s. Well, it's been in the 70s for at least almost the whole week, last week and a half. So I would think that, I mean, it's so close to all-time high. I mean, it's like $10 off from all-time high, and it's had a ridiculous bottom run. It kind of tested the trend line a little bit, but didn't really react to it. Just kind of went through it. I mean, the RCT trend lines right at 180. I mean, that would probably be the be-all, end-all. I mean, if it gets to 180, I would think that would be the top. I mean, it could break out, yeah, but I don't know. I mean, it's going to at least have a red day or pull back a little more than what it did and retest this 165 level. But who knows? We'll have to see what happens on that. So, yeah, like anything can happen with Apple. Now, I mean, I would watch it underneath... you know, obviously, if it gets a push to 180, that'd be the area I'd be watching. But as of right now, the level I'd watch is under 170 for a push down to 165. I think it's going to retest this trend line right here that it has on the weekly. 165, pretty good level. Now, if it gets below 165, it's got a little bit of a gap fill down here in the 160-ish area. So it definitely could fill that gap. So the RCT trend line on the daily is way down here at 145. Every time price gets away from the RCT trend line, it likes to come back and retest it. It's pretty far from it. That's why I'm looking at the downside. But I mean, I don't know. We'll have to see how far Apple goes. I mean, it's got a little bit of a gap right here at 175, 180. So NVIDIA is the last one. I know I'm probably rambling a lot, but this week's going to be, the SPY is up so much. I just can't see it keep going and going back to all-time high with so much going on in the world. But the market only cares when it cares, and it does what it wants. Now, NVIDIA, inverted head and shoulders, left head, right shoulder. So I'd watch it over 190. For push to 195, 200. It does manage to get over this 200 area. We could end up having a strong push to 220 when NVIDIA likes to break out. I mean, right here, it broke out over the 245 area, and it just had a strong move. I mean, it went from 246 to, it made a $20 move. I mean, obviously, if it did break this 195 area, it could make a run to 220, no problem. So NVIDIA could end up having a strong crazy day, so definitely watch out for NVIDIA on that. So that's going to do it for the watch list. We'll have to see what happens day to day. Like I keep saying throughout the video, SPY at some point is going to have a little bit of a pullback, and maybe it's at 430 and we pull back to the 415 area. So I don't know. We'll have to see. Anyways, it's going to do it for the watch list. Hope to see you in the room, and thank you for watching.